The camera zooms in on the bustling streets of Beijing, where a sense of anticipation hangs in the air. As the sun sets, casting a golden hue over the city, the camera shifts to a live broadcast of President Xi Jinping at the Dailei-dung Yandan. His expression, stern yet hopeful, captures the attention of millions. "The world is changing," he declares, his voice resonating through the hall. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, the United States grapples with internal turmoil. Protests flare up outside the Nha as economic strain and political divisions deepen. The juxtaposition is stark. China appears poised, waiting for the moment when America's internal fractures might lead to its downfall. It's a game of patience and strategy, where both nations are acutely aware that the first to falter could alter the global balance of power. The stakes are high, and the world watches with bated breath to see which superpower will emerge unscathed in this modern-day geopolitical chess match.
As night falls over Washington, D.C., the streets are filled with anxiety. The camera pans to the Nha, where President Donald Trump is locked in intense discussions with his advisors. The economic indicators are grim, a potential recession looms, and public discontent is palpable. Meanwhile, in China, the government is subtly but effectively strengthening its economic and military capabilities. Analysts note that Beijing's strategy is not to confront America directly, but to outlast it by capitalizing on its internal weaknesses. The global media buzzes with speculation. Could this be the moment China has been waiting for? The atmosphere is charged with tension as the possibility of a shift in global power dynamics becomes increasingly real. The world is on edge, waiting to see if America's internal struggles will give China the upper hand in this high-stakes game of geopolitical strategy.
The scene shifts to a high-level meeting at the Dailei-dung Yandan in Beijing. President Xi Jinping sits at the head of a long table, surrounded by top officials. A large map of the world is projected on the wall, highlighting key economic corridors and military alliances. Patience, Xi stresses, is our greatest asset. His words underscore China's long-term strategy of waiting out American instability. As the U.S. grapples with political infighting and economic woes, China continues to build its infrastructure, expand its Belt and Road Initiative, and secure new trade partnerships. This deliberate, calculated approach contrasts sharply with the chaotic scenes in Washington, where short-term solutions often prevail over strategic foresight. The message is clear. While America struggles with immediate challenges, China is playing the long game, positioning itself as the stable force ready to fill any void left by a faltering United States.
In Washington, D.C., President Donald Trump convenes a crisis meeting at the Lao Nam Gok with military and economic advisors. The pressure is mounting as international confidence in America's leadership wanes. The camera captures the tense atmosphere as officials debate policy responses to rising global competition. Meanwhile, in China, key actors such as Premier Li Qiang and Foreign Minister Wang Yi are seen engaging with leaders across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Their goal is clear: to strengthen China's influence through diplomacy and economic investments. As Washington's political landscape grows more unpredictable, Beijing's consistency and strategic outreach appear increasingly appealing to other nations. The contrast could not be starker. While the U.S. appears divided and reactive, China presents a united front, ready to seize opportunities as they arise. The question now is whether America's internal struggles will allow China to redefine global leadership on its own terms. As tensions rise, the consequences of America's internal strife begin to manifest on the global stage. The camera reveals images of foreign leaders meeting at the Cai Huan Man in Paris, discussing a future where U.S. influence is diminished. Meanwhile, China's Belt and Road Initiative is gaining traction, with new infrastructure projects unveiled in Africa and Southeast Asia. The global community is increasingly looking to Beijing for leadership and economic stability. The implications are profound. If America cannot resolve its domestic issues, it risks losing its status as the world's preeminent power. China's strategic patience and investments are starting to pay off as nations reconsider their alliances in light of shifting power dynamics. The narrative is clear. While America battles its internal demons, China stands ready to redefine the global order, offering an alternative vision of international cooperation and prosperity. But then, an unexpected twist emerges. As China's influence grows, internal challenges begin to surface within its own borders. Reports of economic slowdowns and social unrest in regions like Xinjiang and Hong Kong paint a picture of a nation grappling with its contradictions. The camera captures images of protests in Hong Kong, juxtaposed against the serene facade of the Dailei-dung Yandan. This internal unrest raises questions about China's ability to sustain its growth and stability. While America struggles with its own issues, China's challenges highlight the complexities of maintaining a global superpower status. The narrative takes a turn. The very patience and strategy that bolstered China's rise now face tests from within. The world watches closely as both nations navigate their respective challenges, understanding that the path to global dominance is fraught with unforeseen obstacles. In a surprising development, some of China's allies begin to question its long-term intentions. The camera pans to a diplomatic meeting in Jakarta, where ASEAN leaders express concerns over China's assertive policies in the Biendong. While China has been positioning itself as a leader of economic development, its aggressive territorial claims create unease among neighboring countries. This contradiction highlights the complexity of China's rise. While it seeks to expand its influence, it must also manage the perceptions and relationships with its regional partners. The scene captures the tension as ASEAN leaders, with cautious optimism, seek a balance between cooperation and sovereignty. Meanwhile, the United States, under President Donald Trump's administration, seizes this moment to reaffirm its commitment to its allies in the region, hoping to counterbalance China's growing clout. The stage is set for a delicate dance of diplomacy and strategy as both superpowers vie for influence. As the geopolitical chessboard becomes more complex, China's strategy of strategic patience is put to the test. The camera zooms in on a bustling port in Shanghai, symbolizing China's economic might. Despite internal challenges and external pressures, China remains steadfast in its approach, choosing to wait for the right moment rather than making hasty moves. This patience is a calculated decision, aimed at allowing time to weigh in its favor. By maintaining a steady course, China hopes to capitalize on any missteps by its rivals. Meanwhile, the United States, under President Donald Trump's leadership, is forced to confront its own vulnerabilities. Economic policies and international alliances are reassessed as the nation seeks to regain its footing on the global stage. The world watches intently, recognizing that in this high-stakes game, the winner may not be the first to act, but the one who acts most wisely. At the heart of this unfolding drama lies a central question. Why is China waiting for America to collapse first? The camera pans to a think tank conference in Singapore, where experts from around the world gather to discuss this very issue. The consensus is that China's strategy is rooted in a deep understanding of historical cycles and power shifts. By allowing America to falter under its own weight, China hopes to step into a leadership void without direct confrontation. This approach is seen as a way to avoid the catastrophic consequences of a direct military conflict. Instead, China focuses on economic dominance and strategic alliances. The scene captures the intensity of the debate, as scholars and policymakers weigh the potential outcomes of this cautious game. The stakes are high, and the resolution of this question could shape the future of global power dynamics for generations to come. As the narrative unfolds, the main query is explored. How does China's strategy of waiting fit into the broader geopolitical landscape? The camera zooms into a bustling newsroom in New York, where analysts dissect the latest developments. They highlight China's careful cultivation of economic and political alliances, positioning itself as a stabilizing force in an increasingly volatile world. The conversation shifts to the implications for the United States, analyzing how America's internal challenges might inadvertently bolster China's global standing. Experts discuss the potential for a new world order, where power is more dispersed and traditional alliances are reconfigured.
The intensity of the newsroom reflects the gravity of the situation, as the world braces for a future where the balance of power could shift dramatically. The stakes could not be higher, as both nations navigate the complexities of a rapidly changing geopolitical environment. The story of China's patient strategy towards the United States can be traced back to the late 20th century. After the Cold War, China observed the rise of American unipolarity with both caution and ambition. The 1989 Tiananmen Square incident had positioned China as a nation in need of international image rehabilitation, and the United States at that time seemed an insurmountable superpower. Yet China's leadership, led by Deng Xiaoping, decided on a quiet, long-term strategy. Hide your strength, bide your time. This approach was not just about economic growth, but about positioning China as a future contender on the global stage. As America expanded its influence through military and economic means, China focused on internal strength, industrial expansion, and fostering key international relationships. The goal was clear: to avoid direct confrontation and instead wait for an opportunity when the U.S. might falter under its own weight, thus allowing China to assert itself without a significant conflict. As the 21st century unfolded, China's economic engine roared to life. The nation became the world's factory, capitalizing on globalization and leveraging low labor costs to attract foreign investment. This economic miracle was not just about wealth, but about influence. China used this newfound economic power to build infrastructure domestically and abroad, notably through the Belt and Road Initiative. Meanwhile, America was engaged in costly wars in the Middle East, which diverted attention and resources away from Asia. China watched as the U.S. stretched itself thin, both financially and militarily. This time, strategically, China was quietly expanding its influence in Asia and Africa, ensuring that its rise was as unassuming as possible. The world began to see China not just as a manufacturing hub, but as a budding superpower with geopolitical aspirations. On the surface, the United States remained a formidable power with its robust military, leading technological advancements, and a stronghold over international finance. American culture permeated globally, from Hollywood movies to Silicon Valley innovations. The dollar was the world's reserve currency, and the U.S. military had bases in over 70 countries. Yet, beneath this powerful facade, cracks began to appear. The 2008 financial crisis exposed vulnerabilities in the American economic model, and subsequent political divisions revealed a nation increasingly at odds with itself. While America projected strength externally, internally, the fabric seemed to fray. China, observing these developments, continued to build its capabilities silently, waiting for the right moment to assert itself as a global leader. Despite its surface dominance, the United States faced internal challenges that threatened its stability. Political polarization reached unprecedented levels, creating gridlock within the government and eroding public trust. Social issues such as racial tensions and economic inequality further divided the populace. Meanwhile, the American education system, once a pillar of global excellence, faced criticisms of inadequacy, affecting innovation and competitiveness. These hidden weaknesses were not immediately visible to the outside world, but were critical vulnerabilities that China observed with keen interest. The Chinese leadership recognized that while military might and economic clout were vital, societal cohesion and political stability were equally important for sustained global leadership. While these vulnerabilities were visible, they were often overshadowed by America's global influence and military might. The international community, enamored by American culture and economic power, largely ignored these warning signs. Even within the U.S., discussions about these issues were often overshadowed by debates over foreign policy and military engagements. This ignorance allowed these problems to fester, creating deeper divisions and unrest. China, meanwhile, assessed these signs with strategic patience, understanding that these internal struggles could eventually lead to a weakened American stance on the global stage. It was a waiting game, and China was prepared to play it. Throughout the last 2 decades, several key events foreshadowed the potential decline of American dominance. The 2008 financial crisis was a significant bellwether, revealing systemic flaws in the U.S. financial system. The prolonged engagements in Iraq and Afghanistan drained American resources and attention. Domestically, the rise of populism and increasing political polarization highlighted deep-rooted societal divides. The COVID-19 pandemic further exposed the weaknesses in American healthcare and social systems. Each event, seemingly isolated, collectively painted a picture of a nation struggling with its own identity and capabilities. China, observing from afar, interpreted these incidents as signs of a shifting global order, positioning itself to capitalize on America's potential missteps. China, observing from afar, interpreted these incidents as signs of a shifting global order, positioning itself to capitalize on America's potential missteps.
The revelations continued to mount as international observers noted increasing instances of American retreat from global commitments. The Paris Climate Agreement withdrawal and the handling of NATO relations indicated a shift in American foreign policy priorities. Meanwhile, China expanded its influence through initiatives like the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and increased its participation in UN peacekeeping missions. This shift was not just about filling a vacuum left by the U.S., but about redefining global leadership. China presented itself as a reliable partner in global governance, contrasting with the perceived unpredictability of American policies. As these revelations unfolded, the world began to ponder if China would soon eclipse the U.S. as the dominant global power.
As the global stage was set, tensions reached a crescendo with the trade wars initiated by the United States against China. Tariffs and sanctions were exchanged, affecting global markets and economies. This confrontation was not just about trade imbalances, but was emblematic of a broader struggle for supremacy. The U.S. aimed to curb China's technological and economic ascent, but these actions also highlighted American anxieties about maintaining its dominant position. Meanwhile, China's response was measured, focusing on strengthening its domestic market and forging new alliances, particularly in Asia and Africa. This peak in crisis underscored the shifting dynamics of global power, suggesting a potential realignment in the world order.
Behind the scenes, the strategic calculations of both nations were complex and multifaceted. For the United States, the trade wars were a means of reasserting control and curtailing China's rapid technological advancements, seen as a threat to American economic hegemony. For China, the response was not just defensive, but also opportunistic, capitalizing on the U.S.'s diplomatic missteps to strengthen ties in regions where American influence waned. China's meticulous planning involved diversifying its economic partnerships, investing in technology and innovation, and building a self-reliant economy to withstand external pressures. These calculations revealed a deeper understanding of the global chessboard, where each move was designed not just for immediate gains, but for long-term strategic positioning. The strategic interests at play are intricate and finely balanced. The United States seeks to maintain its status as the world's foremost superpower, with a focus on protecting its technological edge and economic clout. It views China's rise as a challenge to this status, prompting a series of measures aimed at containing China's influence. On the other hand, China is driven by a vision of reclaiming its historical position as a leading global power, emphasizing economic growth, technological innovation, and regional influence. The competition is not merely about power, but about the vision each nation holds for the future of global governance. This complex interplay of interests will shape the geopolitical landscape for decades to come, as both nations navigate the challenges and opportunities of a rapidly changing world. In the shadowy corridors of global power, every decision made is a chess move, meticulously planned and executed. The geopolitical logic behind China's wait-and-watch strategy towards the United States is rooted deeply in history and a profound understanding of power. China recognizes that patience is a virtue in diplomacy. As the U.S. navigates its internal challenges, from economic shifts to political polarization, Beijing sees an opportunity. By waiting for the U.S. to falter, China can assert its influence more decisively on the global stage without direct confrontation. This strategy minimizes risks and maximizes gains, allowing China to focus on strengthening its economic and military prowess. The goal is not just to match America's power, but to redefine the very rules of international engagement, positioning China as an indispensable leader in a reshaped world order.
As the world sits on the cusp of a new era, global power dynamics are shifting in unprecedented ways. The traditional Western-centric order, led by the United States, is witnessing challenges from emerging powers, prominently China. This shift is not merely about economic might, but extends to technological advancements, military capabilities, and soft power influence. China's Belt and Road Initiative signifies more than infrastructure. It's a strategic web spun across continents to weave economic dependencies and alliances. Meanwhile, the U.S. grapples with maintaining its hegemonic status amidst internal divisions and global skepticism. This evolving landscape presents a complex tableau where alliances are tested and new partnerships are forged. The world is becoming a multipolar arena where the balance of power is fluid and China's ascent is both a challenge and a catalyst for change. The global power dynamics are experiencing a seismic shift, akin to tectonic plates rearranging beneath a seemingly calm surface. At the heart of this transformation is China's strategic patience, a calculated wait for the optimal moment to assert dominance. While the U.S. has traditionally held the reins of global influence, internal and external pressures are straining its ability to maintain this control. China's rise is not just about acquiring power, but redefining what power means in a multipolar world. Economic interdependencies, technological leadership, and cultural exchanges are the new currencies of power. This change in dynamics is not just about one nation over another, it's a reimagining of global leadership where cooperation and complement are intricately woven. As the U.S. navigates these waters, the world watches, aware that the balance of power is more fragile than ever.
As history unfolds, the lessons learned from past empires serve as a guiding light for modern powers. China's approach to waiting for America's potential collapse is informed by these lessons. Empires have risen and fallen, often due to overreach and internal decay. China's leadership, under President Xi Jinping, understands that time and patience can be more powerful than haste and aggression. By studying the downfalls of past superpowers, China opts for a path of calculated growth and strategic alliances. This approach is not without risks, but it offers a blueprint for sustained influence without direct confrontation. The lessons from Rome to the British Empire highlight the importance of adaptability and resilience. As China navigates its rise, it does so with an eye on history, learning to avoid the pitfalls that have ensnared others.
In the intricate dance of global politics, insights into power dynamics offer a window into the future. China's strategy of patience highlights the importance of understanding both visible and hidden levers of power. While military might and economic strength are critical, the influence of culture, technology, and diplomacy cannot be understated. China's rise is supported by a multifaceted approach that blends hard and soft power. By investing in technology and infrastructure, China not only boosts its domestic growth, but also extends its influence globally. This strategic insight positions China to capitalize on shifts, turning challenges into opportunities. As the world watches, the lesson is clear. Power in the modern age is as much about influence and adaptability as it is about traditional metrics of strength. Reflecting on China's strategic patience reveals a masterclass in long-term planning. While many nations focus on immediate gains, China's vision stretches decades into the future. This approach is grounded in an understanding that true influence is not achieved through quick victories, but through sustained advancement. The strategic reflections of China's leadership reveal a commitment to a stable global order where its influence is felt across continents. By strategically placing itself in key global networks and partnerships, China ensures its voice is heard on the international stage. This careful orchestration of power dynamics is not just about dominance, but about creating a world where China's rise is seen as a natural progression. The implications of this strategy are profound, suggesting that the future of global leadership may be more collaborative than confrontational. In the grand tapestry of geopolitics, philosophical insights offer a deeper understanding of the motivations and aspirations driving nations. China's calculated patience is not just a strategy, but a philosophy rooted in ancient wisdom. This approach draws from Confucian principles of harmony, balance, and the art of war by Sun Tzu, emphasizing strategic restraint over impulsive aggression. It's a belief that success comes from understanding one's adversaries and oneself. By integrating these philosophical insights into modern statecraft, China seeks to craft a narrative where its rise is harmonious with global stability. This philosophical underpinning suggests that true power lies not in domination, but in the ability to shape events subtly and decisively. As the world observes China's ascent, this philosophical approach may redefine how nations perceive power and leadership in the 21st century.
If you found this perspective valuable, consider subscribing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. Thank you for watching.